Chapter 1. Bryce. Diving Under. All I've ever wanted is for Julie Baker to leave me alone. For her to back off. Just give me some space. It all started the summer before second grade when our moving van pulled into our neighborhood. And since we're now about done with the eighth grade, that, my friend, makes more than half a decade of strategic avoidance and social discomfort. She didn't just barge into my life. She barged and shoved and wedged her way into my life. Did we invite her to get into our moving van and start climbing all our boxes? No, but that's exactly what she did, taking over and showing off like only Julie Baker can. My dad tried to stop her. Hey, he says as she's catapulting, catapulting, catapulting herself on board. What are you doing? You're getting mud everywhere. So true, too. Her shoes were, like, caked with the stuff. She didn't hop out, though. Instead, she planted her rear she planted her rear end on the floor and started pushing a big box with her feet. Don't you want some help? She glanced my way. It sure looks like you need it. I didn't like the implication. And even though my dad had been tossing me the same sort of look the same sort of look all week, I could tell he didn't like this girl either. Hey, don't do that, he warned her. There are some really valuable things in that box. Oh well, how about this one? She scooched over to a box labeled Lennox and looks my way again. We should push it together. No, 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 my dad says, then pulls her up by the arm. Why don't you run why don't you run along home? Your mother's probably wondering where you are. This was the beginning of my soon to become acute awareness that the girl cannot take a hint of any kind. Does she jib on home like a kid should when they've been invited to leave? No, she says. Oh, my mom knows where I am. She said it was fine. Then she points across the street and says, we just live right over there. My father looks to where she's pointing and mutters, oh boy. Then he looks at me and winks as he says, Bryce, isn't it time for you to go inside and help your mother? I knew right off that this was a ditch play, and I didn't think about it until later, but ditch wasn't a play I'd run with my dad before. Face it, pulling a ditch is not something discussed with death. It's like against parental law to tell your kid it's okay to ditch someone, no matter how annoying or muddy they might be. But there he was, putting the play in motion. And man, he didn't have to wink twice. I smiled and said, sure thing, then jumped off the life gate and headed for my new front door. I heard her coming after me, but I couldn't believe it. Maybe it just sounded like she was chasing me. Maybe she was really going the other way. But before I got up the nerve to look, she blasted right past me, grabbing my arm and yanking me along. This was too much. I planned it myself and was about to tell her to get lost when the weirdest thing happened. I was making this big windmill motion to break away from her, but somehow on the downswing my hand wound up, tangling into hers. I couldn't believe it. There I was, holding the mud monkey's hand. I tried to shake her off, but she just clamped on tight and yanked me along, saying, come on. My mom came out of the house and immediately got the world's saddest look on her face. Well, hello, she says to Julie. Hi. I'm still trying to pull free, but the girl's got me in a death grip. My mom's grinning, looking at our hands and my fiery red face. And what's your name, honey? Juliana Baker. I live right over there, she says, pointing with her unoccupied hand. Well, I see you've met my son, she says, still grinning away. Uh-huh. Finally, I break free and do the only manly thing available when you're 7 years old. I dive behind my mom. Mom puts her arm around me and says, "Bryce, honey, why don't you show Juliana around the house?" I flash her help and warning signals with every part of my body. But she's not receiving. Then she shakes me off and says, "Go on." Julie would have tramped right in if my mother hadn't noticed her shoes and told her to take them off. And after those were off, my mom told her that her dirty socks had to go too. Julie wasn't embarrassed. Julie wasn't embarrassed. Not a bit. She just peeled them off and left them in a crusty heap on our porch. I didn't exactly give her a tour. I locked myself in the bathroom instead, and after about 10 minutes of yelling back at her that no, I wasn't coming out anytime soon, things got quiet out in the hall. Another 10 minutes went by before I got the nerve to pick out the door. No Julie. I snuck out and looked around, and yes, she was gone. Not a very sophisticated ditch, but hey, I was only 7. My troubles were far from over though. Every day she came back over and over again. "Can Bryce play?" I could hear her asking from my hiding place behind the couch. "Is he ready yet?" One time she even cut across the yard and looked through my window. I spotted her in the nick of time and dove under my bed. But man, that right there tells you something about Julie Baker. She's got no concept of personal space, no respect for privacy. The world is her playground. And watch out below. Julie's on the slide. Lucky for me, my dad was willing to run block, and he did it over and over again. He told her I was busy or sleeping or just plain gone. He was a lifesaver. My sister, on the other hand, tried to sabotage me any chance she got. Lunetas like that. She's 4 years older than me, and buddy, I've learned from watching her how not to run your life. She's got antagonized written all over her. Just look at her, not cross-eyed or with your tongue sticking out or anything. Just look at her and you've started an argument. I used to knock down drag out with her, but it's just not worth it. Girls don't fight fair. They pull your hair and gouge you and pinch you. Then they run off gasping to mommy when you try and defend yourself with a fist. Then you get locked in timeout. And for what? No, my friend. The secret is don't snap at the bait. Let it dangle. Swim around it. Laugh it off. After a while, they'll give up and try to lure someone else.